How long has this awkwardness been going on?
So I did pick up on it's been like 1 week since I picked up on
Sorry.
That caught me really off guard. Hi. How's it going?
It's going okay. It's going okay. Yeah. It's been a week of change for me. Brand new things and revisiting things. And for those listening and not seeing, I got bangs again now. Got a little short fringe that I guess nobody would have seen me with them on here, but it's a Jenny staple. This feels like my natural state. Also, this last week I started a new job. I'm employed again, and yay! Thank goodness. Thank you very much. Thank you. But obviously, as with starting any new job, that comes with a lot of learning new stuff, meeting so many new people and new faces and names, and it's a lot. There's a lot of adjustment going on. So yeah. But I'm okay otherwise. How are you doing?
Oh my God, you guys, I feel like every episode I start out with, well, we've all been sick and it's been really hard and it's been crazy. And when I tell you that we have been sick, this was the big boss. So I made the mistake of saying that when we got gastro back in February, that was the big boss. And I did that. I jinxed it because now we finally got, and for algorithm's sake, I don't want for some reason to be like, bleeped out of it. So I'm not going to say the virus that starts with a big C, but I got it literally for the first time. I managed to not get it for 4 years because, like, keep in mind, I was on maternity leave twice for 16 months in that time. So there was a lot of opportunity to avoid a lot of situations, right? Yep. And even with kids in daycare, we somehow skated by without getting it. And of course, at this busy juncture of my life, this is when it needed to happen. And it was a lot. It was a lot. But we're okay now. I would just want normalcy again, because now we're still in like the catch-up scramble phase, which I felt like we had just started like climbing out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's busy for me at work right now. Like it's really, really, really busy for me at work right now. So I feel like I'm going to be in scramble catch-up phase for the next maybe 4 weeks. And then June is going to be a little bit more settled, right?
Just in time for us to... just in time for us to finish the season.
Oh my God. Was that crazy? There's 3 episodes left. I don't know what I did with my hands. I'm like, 3. I'm like, there's 3 somewhere. So we are the Belladonna Watch Club. Come get cozy with us while we dig into iconic shows and movies that one of us has never seen before. The rules are one of us needs to have seen it, loved it, said, why haven't you seen this before? And the other one has to have fresh eyes. So we are on season 1, episode 18 of Gilmore Girls. This episode is called The Third Lorelai. In this episode, we meet Lorelai the First, Trix, as she is also known. We'll get into that. And the whole episode is centered around the announcement of Trix's imminent arrival. Then Trix's visit, where she offers to provide Rory with a trust fund to get herself through school. And then kind of the fallout from that, because money is always, it's a big divider, right? With family, people, and friends and all of that. So the offer of this money obviously causes some issues, and the episode is centered around that. So what did you think?
Well, as I was just telling you, I've seen this episode 3 times now, and it's 3 times more than I'd like to. I was really, really annoyed with a lot in this episode. A lot. It's interesting that I found myself really, really feeling for Emily, which I think is not unusual for this episode. But like, I really, really felt for her in this, which just was an uncomfortable state to be in. I really didn't want to see Tristan again But, you know, you kind of had to. The follow-up from last episode, you absolutely had to. There were a lot of things in it that didn't work for me. Things that I just didn't understand because I've never known what I don't fully understand the ways of like a wealthy family like that, and a sort of a generational wealth family like the Gilmores. So there's a lot that I just felt completely dumb to. And people were really, really getting on my nerves. So not a great episode for me, but you know, they come and go. That's fine.
Yeah, I love this episode, and I really just like this episode at the same time because it takes you on such a journey emotionally, especially, you know, the Emily storyline throughout, like, because you feel every feeling for Emily in this episode. Everything. Yes. It's all over the place. And it's one of those episodes where you do feel for her. And for once, you're actually rooting for Emily. And then she just comes in and ruins it. And you're just like, why are you like this? Which is actually almost what Lorelai asks her at one point. Yeah. Like, you want to root for Emily, but then she just does all these horrible things that like undermine all of her good qualities, I guess. Like you understand her motivations, but then her approach to it is always terrible.
Yes.
And like you want to be able to just say, Emily, we see you, we get you. But then she just always takes it to this place where you're like, I can't get on board with you doing it like this. Like, come on, man. Yeah. So it's a hard episode to watch because it's also like, it's not fun watching anybody be bullied, like, like severely bullied. And it's really not pleasant and comfortable to watch, but it is kind of fun watching Emily freak out at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. There's about 5 minutes of great content in this one.
Yeah. Let's dig into it. So we start out, it's Friday night dinner, and the three ladies are sitting there in pretty much silence, except Emily, who's there just commenting on the silence about how nobody's got anything to say. We're three intelligent women. Like, somebody say something. Well, she's also not saying anything. Like, if you want the conversation to move, you could do that too.
I like that she does mention the silence, because then we're aware that no one's talking. And okay, so have Rory or Lorelai said or mentioned or brought up anything of the last episode, like the last things that we've seen? Of course they wouldn't talk about that with Emily. Of course they wouldn't. So like, there's a lot to talk about, but they're not gonna. And I just think that's really neat. Like, okay, for once, we're silent. What the hell is going on? So she's clearly picking up on something there, but it is not addressed at all.
Nope, not at all. She compares them to the Kennedys, saying that like they're just as worldly. The Gilmores are just as, you know, good as the Kennedys, and they talk about like they have dinner quizzes and conversations and all this stuff, and it's lively and and it's like, well, girl, you gotta carry your end of the conversation. Yeah. Like, don't put it all on them. Like, you get annoyed when Lorelai talks too much anyway. Like, stop it. And so then in comes Richard, and he says that he's been on the phone with London. And it's about his mother, Lorelai the First. And she's going to come for a visit.
I like that when he arrives at the table. He's like, oh, I've just been on the phone with London. And Emily goes, oh, do you want to change first? Like, I have my talking on the phone outfit and I have my dinner outfit. I'm going to change. Like,
right?
Don't you want to change? Don't the Kennedys change before dinner after the phone calls? Like, it's just such a weird.
It's so weird. The whole concept, like, you know, I'm a big fan of Downton Abbey as well. And, you know, the well-to-do folks, they change for dinner. And in that situation, I imagine that they're like, you know, the day wear is different than the formal wear or whatever. Yeah, but like, you know, Richard is just going to change into another suit. Like, what? What is that? Yeah. And then Emily tries to like get him all set up with like a napkin. Like, she's just so excited that there's like a shift in the dynamic. And she's like, oh, let me take care of this for you. And he's like, woman, I can do this. Like, what are you doing? She's just got a weird vibe at the beginning of this episode. Lorelai is like, were you on the phone with God? Richard's like, no. What are you talking about? And then he says that it was his mother. And Lorelai just keeps going with the God bit. Like, I knew God was a woman and we're related to God and that's great. Like, I should be able to like take advantage of that.
And
everybody's
Emily's
just like,
face.
Lorelai.
Yeah. Huh? God. She has the ability to be insufferable. And she really, really got on my nerves in this scene. Like, especially Lorelai.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just, I don't know how things managed to, like, spiral this way, but I guess it's humorous, that suddenly Emily is, like, blocked out of the conversation because all she wants to ask is, when is your mother coming? When? And they're just talking about other things. They're continuing the conversation, She's like, God damn it, listen to me. Tell me, won't someone answer my question?
She asks 3 times, like, hello? Like, hello.
It's the first instance in this episode of Emily being, like, iced out, essentially, you know, just, and it's unfair. So I'm already feeling for Emily being like, why is everyone, what? She's just trying to ask a question. Yeah, so.
She's usually the one doing the icing. So it's a little bit rewarding seeing her out of sorts and like uncomfortable because she's usually the one kind of like dishing out that kind of behavior to other people, especially Lorelai. And we've seen her do it to Rory, where, you know, she completely blocks her out, you know, after the birthday party and stuff like that, where it's nice to see her get a little taste of her own medicine. But then, you know, Trix takes it so far that it's no longer a bucket of medicine enjoyable, on her head. Right?
Yeah.
So Emily finally gets their attention by like yelling, like, when is she coming? And then we find out it's next week. Emily, with, you know, utmost decorum, just excuses herself from the table and walks away. We then see her in the basement going absolutely bananas.
I loved this.
She's pulling everything out that Richard's mother has ever given them as a gift because she obviously she despises them, every item. And like she's describing these different things that they've given her or she's given her over the years. And so like Lorelai comes down and it's like, Mom, what are you doing? So my favorite thing from the scene is the way that Lorelai's talking to the dogs. Giant dog statues, just like, hey boys, and then just like talking to Emily, just as like part of the conversation. And I have this clip about just with like Emily losing her ever-loving mind.
To get out everything she has ever given us. 35 years worth of fish lamps and dog statues, lion tables, and stupid naked angels with their butts and...
Whoa, stupid naked angel butts? What, did David Mamet just stop by?
Leave, please.
Mom, calm down.
I can't calm down. That lampshade is missing and the china is cracked and I can't remember which table it is that she gave us for our 10-year anniversary.
Mother.
She is freaking out, which Lorelai says, Mom, you're freaking out. I especially wanted that clip in particular because I really like hearing Emily say butts.
Yes.
It's such an out of character word for her. And I'm like, haha, she said butts. That's what I wrote in my notes.
Oh, it's so good. It. But again, I can get, like, we don't know what Lorelai the First is like yet. We haven't met her. We're getting the impression that she's, you know, something to be reckoned with, right? But I'm already kind of feeling for Emily in like she's flipping out, and the last thing you want when you're flipping out is for someone to just like come down and start asking you questions. So she says to Lorelai right there, like, please leave. Like I need to do this by myself. She's so much about control and I need things to be done, and like she removes herself from the living room. She is like she takes herself into her own zone. And I've been there. I've been in that kind of panic mode. And it's just building up. Like we're wondering, like, is she overreacting? That remains to be seen. But this is a huge reaction. Huge reaction. And it's the classic thing of, you know, all the decorations, anything that we've been given for Christmas, we need to put them on display. It's typical. You see that in so many like family sitcoms and whatever. But this is on the Gilmore scale. So it's all these
opulent, horrible things. You know, like the dogs are insane, right? Like who would have that in their house? And you know, Lorelai is trying to make light of it. She's also like acknowledging with that like the dogs are ridiculous, right? Yes. And then Emily in her like rant is just like, you wake up with these dogs every day. And Lorelai looks at them and goes, don't worry, she's just upset. And then and that's the last straw for Emily. And she's like, just stop talking to the damn dogs. And that's what Lorelai's like, Mom, you are freaking out. I've never seen you freak out like that before. And she's like, yes, you did. You were 12. And that's when that woman came, like, last visited.
That's relatable, to remember exactly the time when you the last time that you lost it like that. You remember in detail. Oh God. Oh,
and you don't even just remember the year. You remember like how old your kid was. Like you remember everything about that, right? It's like this was the moment it happened, and it has been like that ever since. Like I remember. So after that, like Lorelai's like, okay, do you need help? Like, let's just figure all of this out. And they're like hauling stuff upstairs, and they say to the 3rd floor. I'm like, how many floors does this house have?
I don't know. I don't understand the back and forth they have at this point of like the 2nd floor with a ladder or something. Like, what?
I think it's because the thing is too heavy and Lorelai doesn't want to haul it all the way to the 3rd floor. And so she's like, 2nd floor, 1st floor? Like,
got it.
I did Google. So what did I Google for today's? I only Googled 2 things. So David Mamet was one of them, because in that clip, after she says stupid naked angel butts, what did David Mamet call or whatever? I didn't know who he was, and I didn't get a lot of information that gave me context for that line. He's an actor, writer, producer, something like that.
Etc. Yeah. He just has a style.
Okay. Yeah. So if someone has more info on that, it was late and I was tired, and I was like, do I really want to be doing this right now? I did find an acting website that was all about like, I don't know, like the David Mamet like method, like his theories about like acting and things. And it was very pompous what I did read. And it got on my nerves. And that could just be because I was tired and grumpy and I didn't want to be doing it. So
someone give us the Mamet lowdown.
Please do. So from there, we have Lorelai and Rory driving home, and Rory wants the tea. She's like, I don't know anything about this woman. Could you please tell me? Which still is so weird to me. Like, she didn't know much about the Strobes. Not the Strobes. Strobe was the one person. The Haydens. I was like, the Strobes? So she didn't.
That's their little indie band.
Strobes.
We are the Strobes.
Perfect. So she like doesn't know much about the Haydens. She doesn't know anything about like her great grandmother. And so it's like, did they just not talk about family ever? Like, it just seems bizarre to me that she has all these living fairly close in terms of like direct relatives. It's not like a second cousin that she doesn't know about. It's like her grandparents. So I find that strange. Basically, Rory asks Lorelai, and even Lorelai is like, I don't have a lot. Like, my parents would go visit her because she didn't like to travel. And you know, like, you've got all the information that I do, kid, pretty much.
Rory says, I hope she likes me. And that's such a, like, teenage, just people pleaser thing to say, because Rory hopes that everyone likes her. That's sort of become her flaw and shining trait, that, like, you know, she just sort of blindly goes about hoping that people like her, expecting that people like her, and just doing right by everyone. And that's a very relatable trait, I find. And it just it makes so much sense coming from Rory to hear something like that. Oh, I hope she likes me. Like, you don't know anything about her. Just right. Wait. And I think Lorelai says something like, you know, oh, of course she will. She will. Like, pleasantry. Everybody likes you. You're such a great kid. Of course, you know, of course she'll like you. And when she actually does meet Rory, for the rest of this episode, becomes, again, part of the words and part of people's conversation, but she's never actually participating in it. She's
like not around.
Yeah, she's talked about, and she's like, oh, well, how will Rory deal with the money? And can't wait to tell Rory about this, and she'll be so excited. And she basically becomes a pawn for their arguments and their discussion. But Rory is in the dark about it right until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this has already happened at least one other episode where, you know, she becomes the center of conversation and she's not even involved. I mean, I'm sure that must just be what happens around parents and
I was just going to say that.
Discussing.
Yeah.
Like, of course she's not going to be part of it. But how much pressure but how much they put forward, like what she is going to do in the future, and we care about her future. It's always about her. She's our shining whatever. They really don't get a moment to talk to her about it or involve her in it. And I kind of just wish they would talk about what's actually on their minds, what they're actually.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Anyway. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, and so I think that's like a two-pronged thing, what you just said. So I think certain families have like plans and expectations and goals for their children, right? Like before they're even born, they're like, my child is going to be a piano prodigy or whatever, right? Like some families have kids to like basically live out their own goals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I think conversations in families like that about their children and deciding things for their children and their children's future and well-being and prospects and all of that are like a source of conversation and contention without the kids even being involved in it because they don't have a say in their lives a lot of the time. But then there's a certain element of that of like just normal parenting, that there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes about your kid that your kid will never know about nor be involved in ever, you know. And my children are very, very young, but even the case of like, you know, switching to daycare or from daycare to kindergarten. And there's a conversations about like whether or not we wanted to keep our child in daycare for an extra year, maybe skip kindergarten. And we never included our daughter in those conversations, because she's 3. So I don't really think she would understand like what that would really mean, like what that would entail. But yeah, I'm just saying that like those conversations about people's kids happen without them there regularly. But in this case, you know, she's 16. Sorry?
Yeah. I'm just saying it's just a shame how often that happens in this show, specifically around Rory, and how much they emphasize like, oh, but it's Rory's best interests, and you know, she's such a smart girl and she's so responsible and she's so this and this. Then why aren't you talking to her?
Yeah.
Why don't we involve her in the conversation? And if it's not a convenient timing, then find a convenient time. You know, I just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think it's just like a wealthy people thing who are like, we're going to make these big decisions about people because we're powerful and we can, and they can't say no because I can cut them off. And yeah. So we also have Rory saying that Richard said that she was very much like her or her great grandmother. And so she says that Grandpa says that we're a lot alike. And Lorelai says, well, that is the highest compliment. Because at this point, we have seen Richard being extremely giddy about his mother coming. We have him, you know, all proud and boastful about who she is and whatever. Do you remember in the first episode where they talk about his mother as though she was dead?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd forgotten that this episode was in this season because I was like, I'm quite certain there's an episode with his mother. Yeah. And they're like, she was a formidable woman. I'm like, well,
true.
She still is. Like,
yeah.
So I think that when they wrote the pilot, she was no longer around, and then they got a few episodes in, and they were like, let's actually make her living. Let's make it interesting.
Surprise necromancy. Woo.
Exactly. What kind of things do they have going on in London that we don't know about? The Brits. So we cut to the next day I guess it can't be the next day because that was Friday night dinner. So it must be Monday at school. This
is super confusing. The timeline of this episode is another thing that really bothers me about this episode. Is the timeline is so confusing. So, okay, if we go from last episode, Saturday night was the party and everything went down on the Saturday night. So this is definitely a Friday night dinner that we've just seen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's almost a whole week later. And then we're at school the next day, but Paris in this scene will mention that we're going to meet tomorrow to work on our project. But that's a Saturday, so we're going to come to school on a Saturday. So it's another week around. I'm so confused.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's like I guess like over those two episodes, it's like almost a 3-week span.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like Friday night break up, Saturday night party, Friday night, following Friday night, Trix is coming, and then a whole other week passes.
Yeah.
And so that means after the kiss, it's been 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks.
And now they're just having this like awkwardness.
How long has this awkwardness been going on?
This is a great point. So I did pick up on it's been like 1 week since yeah. I picked up on sorry. That got me really off guard.
And you literally said, it's been 1 week.
Yes, I did.
Feel free, listeners, and everyone involved. Carry it on.
Anyway, time is nothing. Time means literally nothing. So we're at school, and we have this group project situation where we're forming our own government. We've got Paris, Louise and Madeline, Rory and Tristan, and these two nameless Joe Schmoes that they pan to at one point.
Yeah.
We don't know them. So Paris is obviously taking full charge over this project. She's talking about the different options and the things that have worked historically in some governments and the way that they're going to do it. And they need a king and queen. And she defaults, okay, Tristan, Rory, you're king and queen. And both of them are like, blah, 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 blah. No, yeah, with us together? No, like we can't do that. Like subtle guys. Paris is having none of that. She's like, what's wrong with you guys? Just be king and queen. Like, just stop it. And so Rory keeps trying to deflect, being like, well, you be the queen. And she obviously says that she can't because she's head of parliament. Of course. And Rory keeps trying. Well, King Louis VIII didn't like the religion, so he made his own. I love this line from Paris so much. Or she's like, yeah, and then he cut his wife's heads off. Is he still your role model? Like, without missing a beat.
Paris is on fire this scene. I wrote, Paris is a boss.
She's incredible.
B-A-W-S.
Oh, okay.
Boss. Yeah. And the performance, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm surprised I haven't figured out the actress's name, but whatever her name is, whoever you are, you were outstanding.
Liza Weil, W-E-I-L. I've never heard it spoken aloud. Weil? Liza Weil?
Weil.
Oh my gosh. She's such a baller. As like an adult. I'm looking at her pictures right now on Google. She's just like so badass.
Oh my gosh.
So badass. Yeah, she's incredible.
Okay, head of government.
I'm distracted. I'm just yeah. I'm like looking at all these things. Like,
Welcome back.
Thank you. So they're trying to figure out who the king and queen are, and Rory rightfully says, like, not every girl wants to be a queen. Like, why do I have to be the queen? And Madeline, it's like, I'll be the queen. Like, I don't know why she didn't just like ask one of the other girls after instead of having this whole like debate about it, but okay. And this part just gives me such ick. And Louise starts talking about being the lady in waiting with the low-cut dress who gets all the sex. And you're just like, like why is she so gross? Like because she's a high school girl. I know girls like that from high school. I remember them. I had a bit of that, but
I don't think you were that brazen. Not quite. No, so brazen.
That's it. That's just a lot. And it's just like, 16. I don't want it. But it's like normal and natural. And of course, 16-year-old girls and guys and gals and whatever you want to, everybody, 16-year-olds, they think about sex and they have sex and it's fine. And, you know, whatever.
And I love that she continues this like whole fantasy about her, like the image of the fantasy that she still wears the dress. The dress is all part of it, the look.
Well, she finally, she steps in and says what role she's actually going to play in this, whatever. And it's like an intelligent, proper thing to say. So we're like, okay, so she does listen. Yes. She does know, but she chooses not to show it.
I just love it. She's done the reading. She's paid attention. She's seen a portrait or two. Yeah. And she has this royal fantasy. It's great. Good for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't like when she said they get all the sex.
Yeah. No.
It's a bit much, Louise. Like, bring it in, girl. Which is because, like, I'm not a prude. It just, she bugs me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm not a conservative, like sexually, like, anyway, we don't need to go into that, but like, I'm not I'm not some fuddy-duddy, but she just bugs me. So
it's fine. You're allowed.
People are gonna be like, wow, she's like super vanilla and like close. No, I just don't like the 16-year-old girl being like so insane.
She would have bothered you then, and she bothers you now. Yeah.
So they make all their plans. They have to get together tomorrow, Saturday at school, and work on their project. And they break at Paris. It's like, okay, what's going on with you and Tristan? Because nobody's blind. Everybody knows. Like, they're being super awkward. And Rory kind of just denies it. They're like, no, what? Nothing. What are you talking about? Forgets her book, goes back to class.
How would she leave her entire notebook behind? Like, it's huge. It's a big old chunky notebook.
She must have just been like trying to get out of Dodge, like so uncomfortable with the whole situation, like run away. I was sitting next to him. We were talking about being royally married and I just don't want it. And I want to go, forget everything. And so she obviously, we all know that when she goes back to the classroom, he's going to be there still.
Oh, and actually, just before we move along, I have a theory about Paris's insistence that Rory be queen. And I think it just comes down to Paris has this clearly so, like, down to the minutia planned out. Like, she's created the whole thing, really, the whole package of notes and things, that it only works that way. And she is so in control. This is like educational, academic control. And, you know, she has it so planned. And also, interesting. So in the, like, I don't know, medieval time that they're taking example from, the head of parliament would have been the power behind the throne, right? So that's interesting that Paris is so very much like, I am going to be in this position, and Rory, you're going to be queen. So I am going to be like, we are going to be side by side. I am going to be your right-hand woman, you know?
That's what I was more thinking, that like she wanted Rory to be queen because it's a position of power and respect that she doesn't trust any of the other girls with. And it's like, no, you have to be queen because I don't want anybody else at like my level. It's you and only you because you're intelligent. You're not a bird brain. I can trust you.
Yeah.
I think it's a trust thing and like a counterpart type thing.
Yes.
And so Tristan had actually grabbed Rory's book and is about to bring it to her, and they have this near collision in the doorway. And Rory, ever so mature and responsible, says that they need to talk because they can't go on like this forever. They have to be in school and do projects and, you know, whatever.
And Tristan is such a moron. Goes, talk about what?
Right?
Come on, man. Come on, Matt. Just smarten up for one episode. God. I can't. The more I see this man on my screen, I never want to see him again. I am so, like, he just gets worse and worse to me. And even by the end of this episode, like, almost I'm kind of like, okay, maybe I'm into. No. He just about what? Come on,
right? Son. Like, don't play dumb. Don't play stupid with us. So they decide they're gonna talk later, I think that's extremely mature communication for a 16-year-old girl to be like, we need to talk about this, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but when you're 16, you like don't want to talk about anything. You're just like avoidant, like. So I think it's kind of ironic that like her family has like generally really bad communication about real feelings and things. And she's at school being like, we need to talk about our feelings. Although I suppose in this case, we need to talk about more what happened rather than how we feel about what happened. And she doesn't have a lot of stake in the game. So it's not it's not as high stakes as like a true feelings conversation. So it just kind of bugged me. I'm like, stop it. Stop it, Rory.
And it doesn't get much better when they do chat as well. Like, but that hasn't happened yet.
So we cut to the inn. I love this part. The dynamic between Lorelai and Michelle. The computer, it's not working. And they're basically siblings. Like the way that they're like whining at each other, and he's like, well, you didn't double click. And she's like, yeah, I did double click. He's like, well, did you press it twice? And she's like, no, I didn't press it twice. He's like, well, then it's not gonna work. Like they're just they're such brats. And then she's like, I'm gonna pinch you. Like, she literally threatens to pinch him. They are siblings. It's so funny. And then he's like, get out of the way. I can't fix it if you're in the way. And then it breaks, and she's like, you did it. Like, it just makes me so happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're terrible. So they have their issues with the computer. They can't get the bookings. They don't know what's going on. And that just sets up the scene for the phone ringing. The phone rings, and it's Emily. And I do have a clip of this because I laughed out loud. I just think it's so good.
Independence Inn.
I need the hat rack.
The fish flies at night.
What?
I don't know. Who is this?
This is your mother.
Oh, well, hi, Mom. I didn't recognize your voice.
Why is it your fault?
I don't know, but it's brilliant. I love that. I just love how completely out of sorts Emily still is, that she doesn't even say, oh, Lorelai, I need... She just, like, she goes straight into it. Like, anyone could have picked up the phone.
Literally anybody.
She probably
I'm sure she recognized Lorelai's voice. It had been Michelle. He would have been like, Independence Inn, this is Michelle speaking. Like, he would have known not to say that.
I like to think that she still would have said it, though.
I'm sorry, madame, you have the wrong number. Click.
Yeah. Rewrite.
Like, yeah, exactly. Oh, yay.
Brilliant. Here's your Grammy. Or no, here's your, what did they call your Emmy. Here's your Emmy.
There's one specifically for podcasts. I forget what it is. But oh, it's a Webby. I want my Webby, please.
Oh, okay.
I am pulling from when I played Hatami in our high school play, and he was a French chef. I'm pulling up my French accent. For those wondering, that was a play called Don't Drink the Water. And I was a French chef that tried to cook a magician's rabbit. Yep. It was great. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I was a hippie chick from New York City or New Jersey. New Jersey. I was a hippie chick from Jersey who actually fell in love with the ambassador's son. And there's a joke about her smoking the drapes. And anyway, it was fun.
It was fun. I had a great time. Anyway, so Emily wants his hat rack. And she describes it as this like great big bronze thing with dragons or snakes or lizards. I don't know. And it's just like, what is this? Like, it sounds like the most horrible. And the way that Lorelai is like, what are you talking about? What hat rack? You think that she's like pawned it or like gotten rid of it because she's fully like, what are you talking about? But then when we see it later in the episode, there ain't no way she did not know what she was talking about because it's enormous. So she's like, why do you want the hat rack back? And she's like, I need the hat rack. I just need it back. And Lorelai's like, I'm not letting you off the hook that easily. Like, why do you need it back? And we find out, obviously, like we knew at this point, because why else would Emily call in such a tizzy asking for an object, that it was a regift from Lorelai the First. And this is where Lorelai gets her digs in. She's like, you gave us a used gift. And Emily is so flippant about it. Like, oh, like, what do you, doesn't matter. Like, just, I need it back.
We
like,
never used it.
Yeah.
We never used it.
Yeah, we never used it. Exactly. Oh my gosh. She's like, no. And this is from the woman who's like, you brought us used dessert. Like,
yeah, it's great. It's a good callback. I love it.
And this is like Lorelai's chance to be like, this is a very like the propriety of this is absolutely not Emily's. In Emily's, what am I trying to say? Up to Emily's standards? This is not an Emily sanctioned behavior. I don't know.
Sure.
Something about this Emily doesn't like, and Emily did it. It's been a really long couple of weeks.
No kidding.
I'm devolving now. So Lorelai just is like, oh yeah, we'll get the hat rack. It cuts back to Rory and Tristan. They've like met in the courtyard or something because it's private school. They have a courtyard. And they're talking about the kiss and both of them are like, well, I was sad about Summer. Well, I was sad about Dean. Okay, great. And then Rory apologizes for having cried. And then tells him that it was a great kiss.
Yeah, okay.
What was that?
Right. At the top of this scene where they're like, okay, well, we need to talk about what happened. Tristan essentially says, like, it doesn't mean anything. You know, it didn't mean anything. So, like, why do we even need to talk about it? And he's right. It didn't mean anything. Like, so, like, Rory, you don't have to apologize. If you didn't mean anything by it, if he didn't mean anything by it, then you don't have to apologize. There's nothing, you don't, like, you can keep talking about it, but, like, what actually does it mean? Like, has it changed anything in you, Rory? Is this why you want to talk about it? I don't know. Because then she says exactly what you just said, that it was a great kiss. Why are you saying this? No, it wasn't. Right. It was horrible. It was a terrible, terrible
you were crying.
Thing.
Like,
yeah. And he says, you know, oh, well, I'm over Summer now. And, like, of course he's over it. Of course he's over it. Like, he wasn't going to be hurt for long after that. But, like, I just hate how much Rory keeps in this conversation. Like, if you were really... I guess she's done that a lot of times before, where, like, she goes beyond and she stays around beyond her, you know, necessary time. She sticks around and, like, gets herself into even more, you know, of a muddier situation.
I have a theory about all of this because, like, it kind of goes back to, I think, Rory's people-pleasing, because she knows that Tristan is always kind of, like, been interested in her, even though nobody understands it, nobody knows why. And so as much as she thinks that it didn't mean anything, I think she knows deep down that it meant something to him. And she wants to talk about it because she wants to tell herself that they're both on the same page and that it didn't mean anything, to, like, make herself feel better about it having had happened. Because up to this point, he's been basically pursuing her. And then she goes and kisses him. She doesn't care, but then they're both very awkward and uncomfortable. And the more that he says, it didn't mean anything, I think she doesn't really believe it. Or just, like, wants to believe it so badly that she, like, tries to redirect. And so I think, like, deep down, she's thinking about that kiss being something that he wanted beyond,
especially that sort of makes it okay for her. If it did mean something, then that makes it more of an okay, not a, like, casual whatever kiss. Because remember, it's like, it's the second person she's ever kissed, so it's going to be a big deal. And if she's anything like I was in those days, like, okay, a kiss is huge, and I'm not just gonna kiss somebody, whoever, just because it's casual. I'm not that kind of person, you know. So that there has to be some meaning behind it, and if they can find meaning behind it and talk about it, then that makes it, quote, okay for it to have happened, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and whereas, like, I kind of think the opposite, where it's like, if they talk about it and it didn't mean anything to either of them, that's better than it having not meant something to her, but did mean something to him, because then she is responsible for his feelings, or she thinks she is responsible for his feelings because she's such a people pleaser, and that she's possibly hurting him. So she's just checking in to make sure that everybody's just, like, neutral. And
I just wish she didn't go to this next bit of saying, you know, maybe you should date a different kind of girl. Why would you say
and then
that?
describes herself.
Yeah. Why would you? Why?
Right?
I was shouting at her, like, stop talking. Go away.
Yep.
You've sealed it all up. They said, okay, yeah, we're done. We're good. It's fine. So leave. Go.
That's it.
Why?
That's your exit cue. So then he says, like, because the segue to that is like, or Tristan says, I'm just gonna swear off. I'm telling, like, not there. Yeah, he says he's gonna swear off girls for a while. And then instead of Rory just being like, cool.
Good for you. Bye.
Yeah. That's when she says, like, what if you just tried dating a different girl? Describes herself to the letter, but then like, oh no, not me. Somebody else like me. And suggests that he asks Paris out. And the way he just was like, oh yeah, okay. What? Why are you doing this? Like, why did he say yes? Why did he ask her out? He's known her for so long. He knows he doesn't want to be with her. He can't genuinely think that he is going to miraculously be interested or attracted to her in a different setting when like they've been to parties and they've been to like other. Why did he say yes? Why is he doing this?
Because she's Rory, but not. She's Rory, but manipulatable. Manipulative? Manipulative a little bit. Manipulatable. Yeah. Hey!
Welcome to Mashed Potato Brains with Jenny and Lisa. The new name of our podcast.
Yeah, right. Oh,
Cabbage
man.
patching, eggplant dancing, mashed potato brain. I'm like thinking like hot potato.
We're just a whole smorgasbord. Anyway.
Welcome to the vegetable patch. The garden. Hey, look at the garden.
Because
hope that will grow on you.
Oh my lord. What are you like?
I need professional help.
Okay. He agrees to it because Rory suggests it, because it's Rory's idea, and instead of him being there, shoot it right down. Like he knows that he can't just right there and say, well, why don't I date you? Obviously, right there, she's going to be like, absolutely not. What are you even talking about? No, Tristan, and like run off. You know, that's more than likely what's going to happen. Or he assumes this is going to happen. But she bigs up Paris, and bless her for bigging up Paris. It's really sweet. I think she actually does think those things about Paris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it really does feel authentic. But this is so dangerous. Like, girl,
yes.
How do you not realize what you're doing?
I don't know. Like, did he just say yes because, like, to prove something to her, or to be like, I did what you asked and it still didn't work, so now will you date me? Like,
probably.
It just bugs me, man. It's like a whole person that you're using in your weird game. Yep. Like, it bugs me, like, that he just so easily said yes, so willing to do something that he doesn't want to do, and that involves the feelings of a whole other person, just for his, like, weird, twisted, like, end game. And it just bugs me, man. He just was like, yeah, okay. Like, just so quickly, and you know that it's not something that he was like, that could be something really good for me. Like, it's just he's so surface level. I just don't like it. Poor Paris. So the only other thing I Googled was at the end of this scene, Rory says, Louis, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And that's a line from Casablanca.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I just figured she was talking about Louis the 14th or something. Louis the something.
Oh, 8th?
Because he's the king, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it was the 8th. I think he's the one that cut off all the heads.
That's Henry. Oh, yeah. Wait a second. I've got English and French monarchies mixed up. I figured she was talking about King Louis the something. You know.
Yeah. Well, now I'm all mixed up. Yeah. So Henry VIII is the one that cut off all the heads. Yeah. But then
he's the one who had many wives. 6 wives.
Okay. So then when she said King Louis
she didn't say king, she just said Louis.
Oh, she just said Louis.
Yeah. So I assumed she was referring to King Louis but then of course that doesn't make sense because they were talking about an English monarch as opposed to the French monarch. Anyway, sorry. This is
okay. Anyway,
moving swiftly along.
Yes. So they're getting ready now for Friday night dinner. They being Rory and Lorelai. They're at the house, and Lorelai is being super impatient. Like, Rory, you're not ready. Let's go. And Rory is like, my lady, listen here. You are impossible to get out the door every week. You basically kick and scream like a child. I once had to pay you to not go in sweats, and now you've been bothering me for an hour to go. And Lorelai's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? And Rory's just like, you are mean. You are excited to go see great grandma be mean to grandma. And Lorelai's like, what are you talking about? I am not. How dare you? Like, never. Meanwhile, she is rushing her out the door and
grabs the camera. Ugh.
Yes. And Rory's just like, mean. But we also don't know how bad it's really gonna be. We just know that Emily's in a bit of a tizzy and Lorelai is amused because Emily's always so composed. So we get to dinner and they're like hauling in the huge bronze coat rack. It's enormous. Where did they keep that in their house?
I have no idea. I was wondering myself.
Like, where would it even fit? They bring it in and, you know, Lorelai's like, how did she not see this coming in? And Emily had this whole scheme about like how they got her inside through the back and then she's up for a nap and like all of these different things. So she avoided the front foyer. And Emily's still like in such a tizzy about like, oh, I think it was over here like a couple of inches. And Lorelai's like, Mom, in 5 years, it could have moved over a couple of inches. And Emily's just like, you're right. Yeah.
You're right. Oh, okay. Of course. Yeah. Great.
Yes. Like, logic. Great.
Emily
Thank you.
Living up to her third Gilmore Girl, title, very much.
Force in this episode. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So our first exposure to Lorelai the First.
Mom, look who's here.
Who?
Well, look.
If I wanted to look, I would look. I haven't looked. Therefore, you must draw your own conclusions. Ah, thank you, dear boy.
You're welcome, Trix.
Trix? Dad's pet name for Gran.
Isn't it just darling?
There's so much to unpack in that clip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. Okay, what were your first impressions? Tell me.
Well, first thing is Emily threw me off by calling her mom.
Right? I also want to talk about that.
What? So
old-fashioned.
Yeah, it's not her mom. Like, I was still second guessing. I'm like, wait, is it her mom? She wouldn't call her mom. She would call her, like, mother or something. But no, it's mom, like, madam, mom. But said in the way that people refer to the queen. Like,
I don't think so, actually. Because, like, my parents would call their in-laws mom and dad. Like, I think that's a married couple thing. And a much older generation married couple thing. So like my dad would call my mom's father dad. And my dad calls my maternal grandmother mom as well.
See, because to me it sounded like how people refer to the queen. How English people.
Like ma'am, but mom, like yeah.
Yeah. Which suddenly I was like, oh, wow, okay, they need to refer to her like royalty. Wow, okay. And oh my goodness, like what century is she out of?
Crazy. Like the long beaded gown situation, like the black,
Is she in mourning? Like, and if she is,
it is very much like a dowager countess mourning dress.
Yeah, like Queen Victoria wore mourning for the rest of her life after Albert died. Like, okay, but that was Victorian times. What the heck is going on here? Why? Again, we haven't known until this moment just what to expect from Lorelai the First, and like we thought Emily was rude with her like manners and oh wow, this just I also she looks like Lorelai. Lorelai looks like Lorelai in a it's so weird.
It is very good.
Yeah, it's super weird. But yeah, and Richard coming along. I'm sure you've got something to say about Richard being the one who like passes the drink over, and she's like, "Oh, what a sweet dear boy." Like, okay, take it away. Tell me
All
your
right. So
thoughts.
first of all, the way that she like full body like bristles when Emily comes in, like the first thing that we get from her, Emily's like, "Mom, guess who's here?" And then she's like, "Oh, who?" Like the acting there, she's just like so repulsed by everything to do with Emily. Like, it's just so disgusted. And the behavior, just to be like, imagine talking to somebody like that, being like, I didn't look. I obviously don't want to look. Like, figure it out. Like, horrible. And yeah, the way that she holds herself and her demeanor and the way that she phrases her sentences and everything is like, yes, what century is she from? Like, where did she come from? And then we have Richard, a grown-ass man-child who is just such a mama's boy and is so proud of his mommy and is letting her be horrible to his wife. Absolutely awful. And he is doting on her and he makes her out to be like Lorelai said, like God. And she's awful. And he just thinks it's so charming and so cute. And he's just like, oh, Mom, about everything that she does, basically. Can we talk about Trix?
Why? What? Like,
that just makes me think of prostitutes. That's what I hear every time. I'm like, why are you calling your mom Trix? I don't recall if it's explained. Like, I've remembered that she's Trix, and every time I think about her, she's Trix. But I just think of turning Trix.
Well, I don't think of that, but it's just, I think I've heard of, like, wealthy families and whatever having cutesy nicknames. That it's a common thing to have cutesy nicknames for your, like, matron of, the matriarch, basically. Which is so disgusting to me because, like, okay, it's funny. It's funny because, like, this woman who basically has so much power and wealth, and you give her a cutesy nickname. Like, it's just such a misfit. Funny, right? But also not funny because it's just totally wiping out, or it's like it's disguising her as this sort of pleasant, sort of like little girly name.
Yeah.
When she's obviously not that. So it's really gross. I just think it just feels really gross.
Yeah. And the other thing that I don't like is that they specify that it's Richard's nickname for her. They don't. It's her nickname. It's Richard's nickname for her. So at some point in their relationship, he decided he alone to call her Trix. Yeah. And I can't even imagine a situation where she would have agreed to that. But Richard can do no wrong, and he's the golden boy, and everything that he does is amazing, and everything that happens around him, especially from a female, is the worst. And she's awful, and it's icky. The whole thing feels extremely icky. And so we have Rory and Lorelai meeting Trix.
Which, okay, so she doesn't lift her head to even look at them. Surely it's not kept a secret from her that they're coming along to dinner. So
right? Like at approximately what time, like
what was she expecting then? Like, and how was she expecting to be introduced to Lorelai and Rory? Like what? I don't understand any kind of the method of the introductions or the like, if you're not going to look up from your paper, like we've already seen with Emily, this thing of she spouts about manners, and she cares so much about manners and propriety and formality and stuff, all the while herself exhibiting none of these manners. But this is just so much worse. And it's hard to, like, she just seems like such a caricature. But if we're to believe that people like Emily exist in real life, and they do, then we got to believe that people like Trix exist, because they do.
Yeah, or at least they used to. But
yeah.
I'm sure they still do. I'm sure they still do in certain circles. She starts talking about how they're tall, and she inquires about their health, and they say, "Oh, we're both very healthy." And this is the first instance where she goes, oh, you must be mostly Gilmores because we never get sick and your mother is sick all the time. Like, she just immediately is like attacking Emily. And it's this like weird, misplaced Gilmore pride. First of all, she would have married into the Gilmores. So this weird, like, we are Gilmores and we never get sick. Girl, that is a name that you earned by, like, trapping some poor soul. Like, you are not a Gilmore. Like, you can't say that. It just is weird to me, that, like, level of family pride with that name that she didn't have for the first bit of her life. Unless it's some sort of she did, and I don't know. She does start asking about what Lorelai's been doing with herself since they last saw one another. And Lorelai starts saying that, like, she runs the inn, and Trix asks about how, like, is it hard work? And Lorelai's like, yeah. And she's like, good. I love a self-sufficient woman, and I love people, like, who work hard. Hard work is good for a woman, or something like to that effect. And I actually really appreciate that she's not like Strobe Hayden was. It was like an inn. How could you, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I feel two ways about this line.
Okay.
One way is just like that. Yeah, like, how rare is it that someone recognizes and praises Lorelai's job and her work and her effort? But that has not happened since, like, Rachel. But also, who it's coming from.
Right? When did you work hard, woman?
When did you ever work hard? And you seem to be totally oblivious to the woman in the room who is working her ass off, trying to make things run smoothly, trying to provide for you, you know, ass over head, whatever the heck, I don't know what the phrase is, but, like, hello?
Yeah.
Hello! Yeah. And it just makes me sick.
I actually hadn't considered it in the context of Emily running around like a lunatic trying to get everything sorted for her. And you're absolutely, you're completely right on that. And that's a really good observation, because right now Emily is working very hard and is getting none of that praise and those kudos.
No, she's getting ripped to shreds, basically. It is
absolutely.
It's so wrong that there was anger bubbling under the surface for me the whole way through this, and just
and so, you know, Emily's popping in and out. She's got a cheese platter, and Trix is like, you want me to eat that? Like, and then Richard's like, what about those spiced nuts that she likes? And Emily's just like, oh, of course, like, I'm just gonna go get that. It's almost panicky, like the way that she is like, oh yeah, okay, like her composure, she's trying so hard to maintain it, but she's scared of this woman. And so she is like, just completely like out of sorts, trying to get this, like trying to get her stuff.
Don't they have staff? Why didn't Emily sit down and have the staff be doing that? Like, you know, bring on some of your extras, bring some more of them in, and have them be the ones getting shouted and screamed at. You were perfectly fine with that at Rory's birthday party. Like,
I think there's still a bit of Emily that wants to impress her and make her happy and show her that she's competent and can take care of her. And
which would have been great, and it would have been a classy way to do it by saying, oh, these are my staff, and call out to Anna and Sadie and whoever, and like, come along, and you know, that would have been great. But obviously, no. Emily's just
that's it. And then, like, that would have been like if somebody brought something out and it was the wrong thing, it wouldn't have been on Emily. Oh, she would have made it about Emily anyway. Like, your staff doesn't know what you're doing. Like, what have you done? You haven't trained them well. Never mind. She would have made it about Emily. And so she comes in with the bowl of nuts, and then Trix goes, and I'm supposed to put them in my hands? Like, just holds her hands out in this, like, dramatic, condescending way. And Emily, once again, drops everything, runs out, gets, you know, the dishes and the napkins and all of that, and comes back in. And she puts everything down, and immediately Trix is like, okay, it's time to eat. After having made Emily run around for her to get all that stuff going.
Emily says that, oh, well, the table isn't prepared yet. You know, the dinner,
the meal isn't ready yet, or whatever.
The meal isn't ready yet. Yeah. Then it's revealed that it's actually 7:05. You know, it's 5 minutes past, and you just kind of think, wouldn't dinner always be on time in the Gilmore house?
You'd think.
Like, you'd think.
I don't think Emily would let something like that slide. If it's dinner's at 7, dinner is at 7.
Yeah. this is another weird little like qualm I had about this episode and this thing. There's just a lot.
I don't think it's ready yet. Like, first of all, you would know. You would be like yelling at your staff to like not have a single thing go wrong this week.
Exactly.
Like this woman is here. We eat at 7. I don't care what it is. We're at the table. It's at 7. If we need to put something out in a placeholder because it's not ready yet, we're going to say it's part of the meal. Like there's going to be food on this table at 7. Yeah, that really bothered me. And then when she goes, it's 7:05, and then Emily tries to, pass it off like, oh, well, it doesn't really, like, what? That's like not late. There's this.
In the event that I'm kidnapped and a ransom is demanded at a certain time, I would prefer that Emily not be in charge of the drop-off.
Oh, that smirk. That smile of like Richard's smirky face of like, ha, Trix. Oh, she's so funny. How amusing.
Oh, my mother is such a treat.
Emily's face is just so like she's just gone above and beyond, and she's just. And then I like that they extend the scene just enough to have Rory and Lorelai really awkwardly get up from the couch and leave the room. So
and they look at Emily apologetically as well. They're like, they just do the eyes like.
So this is not turning out to be as hilarious and fun as Lorelai was expecting, right?
Yeah. And then Emily is left standing alone in the living room, just like biting her lip. She literally bites her lip because she's just like, give me strength. Like, I cannot do this. So, oh wait, Richard. Richard, stand up for your wife. Yeah. It's not cute. It's not funny. Having this woman come in and berate your life partner is not adorable like you think it is. It's revolting. And she's only like that because Emily was the woman who took her baby boy away from her, right? It's the threat. It's no one's ever good enough for my baby boy. It's so tiresome. So at the table, Rory, so sweet and so nice, goes,
Grandma, this dinner's delicious.
Very good, young lady. We all believed you.
Come on. At first, it's like, oh, very good. Good manners. It's always good to compliment the host, even though they didn't actually make food. Like, you think it's going to be like a propriety etiquette comment. And then, like, woman.
But again, like, that is extremely rude. This isn't even her house. This is not her house. But this is where I had to sort of like put myself in this like kind of family scenario that like it doesn't matter that it's not at her house. She is still the head of the table. She's the head of the family. She's the head of everything. So yeah, it is her house. Everywhere she goes, it is her house. And you're just like, excuse me, that is I don't understand, and I don't think I will ever be able to understand this kind of
arrogance.
Yeah, arrogance and entitlement that you just get born into of like, I am born, people must respect me. It's just expected. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. And, Emily does have that to an extent at times, like where the rules don't apply to her and she has expectations of other people's behaviors that she doesn't even embody herself sometimes. But yeah, Trix just takes it to like the next level. And yeah, just this like air of importance. And we get to it, in this dinner when she finds out that Rory's going to Harvard. And she goes, how could you let this happen, Richard? You're a Yale man and your father was a Yale man. Like, this woman has any say in where Rory goes to school. Like,
she didn't know her before 5 minutes ago.
Literally, it doesn't even matter that, yeah, exactly. This person that you don't know is going to do something somewhere, something incredible, might I add. Like, it's not like she's just not going to school. She's still going to an Ivy League school. And how could you let this happen, Richard? And that's when she gets Lorelai, the second, gets shut down entirely, because that's when she tries to chime in and is like, well, Graham, we're going to let Rory be whatever man she wants to be. And she's like, that's enough of your jokes for tonight, Lorelai. That's when she's like, we've had enough. And she goes, well, Lorelai, with a manager's salary, how are you paying for Chilton? That's got to be expensive. And they broach the subject of the loan that they've had, the agreement with Lorelai and her parents about lending the money. And Trix is just like, I've had enough. I'm going upstairs.
Well, like, isn't that one of the, like, cardinal sins of propriety and stuff? You don't talk about money, right?
Right? Yeah.
Isn't that one of the things? So, like, where was this woman educated? What kind of manners did she grow up with, learning? And, like, when did she drop them all?
I think she just dropped them all as she got older and other people, I don't know, people get old and mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the world changes and you don't change with it and you think everything is terrible. And, you know, your way is the only way. And if people don't want to hear it, then they're incorrect. So, yeah, just like that. Again, where are your manners? She's just like, I'm done. I'm going to bed. And then, like, gets up to leave. Richard walks her to her room, which is such like a weird mama's boy. Like, what? Okay,
Let me
so let's
escort
say
you.
she's elderly and might need an arm to rest on. She seems perfectly fit. Most other times we've seen her walking around.
I was surprised she doesn't have like an au pair type man around, you know, or
like a lady's maid,
woman, and anybody. Yeah. Like if she's so high and mighty and sees herself as such, like doesn't she have her own staff that she travels with? Like she should have her own staff, or like, or just one person, right? Yeah. Where are they?
The last thing that she says to Emily at this point, or about just in general, my God.
Have dessert.
I once traveled to a small village in Cambodia. I did not eat dessert there either.
Like, oh, come on. You were in a beautiful home. And again, it's not like it's the home that her son lives in.
If she's got problems with the way things are run, just tell your son or anything.
Ridiculous. So at this point, you really feel for Emily, like really do. It's a big shift. You at the beginning of the episode, it's like, yes, Emily's gonna get her comeuppance, and then you're like, oh, out. Okay, no, that's actually not good. This is not good. Throughout the dinner, they did make plans to have dinner again the following night. Rory can't because she's studying, but Lorelai will be going on her own. That was decided. The following day, Rory's off to school.
Yeah, she's at school on a Saturday.
Yes.
Interesting that they're there on a Saturday, not a school day, because we get to see them all in their normal clothes.
I hadn't even processed that.
It's weird.
Weird, yeah. They're there in their like normal clothes, but they're at school. Louise and Madeline are already there, and they're chatting. And Rory comes in with coffees and clown donuts. I don't know where they're from. I wish I knew. They looked actually kind of delicious.
Yeah.
Not weird. So the girls are complaining that they have to be there on a Saturday and it's early and they don't know what time it is. And the first thing, so Paris walks in and Madeline goes, "Hey, Paris, Louise hates you." First thing. It's like, okay. Then Tristan comes in and right away he asks to talk to Paris on her own.
Yeah.
And he's obviously making like a display of it.
Yes.
He could have pulled her aside at any moment. Why does it have to be the second they get there in front of everybody? So he pulls her aside and Louise and Madeline are just like, what could it be? What's going on? And they're super interested. So they come back and immediately hound Paris to be like, what happened? What is it? And she says that Tristan asked her out. And everybody seems pleased. Nobody seems confused.
Except Louise, I think, is the one who points out, ooh, in 24 hours, like the day
tonight, like less than 24 hours.
It's such a sad thing because, like, it's so hard when you feel so bad for a character who has been so horrible, but then also so wonderful. So Paris, this is such a huge moment for her, such a huge moment. But you know that it's not sincere. It's not a sincere asking out on a date. But for her, it's like, it's brand new. It's exciting. She's riding high. Like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And for one little comment from Louise about like, oh, it's tonight. It's 20, less than 24 hours notice. That's enough to just totally break it for you.
Absolutely. Because she's just like sowing the seeds of doubt. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not just, for the fact that like he knew he didn't have plans or whatever. She says he was canceled on.
Yeah.
Like he had other plans and he's asking you out for tonight.
There's a monstrous lack of tact among these students. Tristan specifically. There's a great big gaping hole where his tact should be. But anyway.
It's a Tristan-shaped hole. Yeah. And so then Paris starts to like kind of waver on her excitement. You could see that that's like, oh, is that bad that it's tonight? Like she doesn't know. And you know what? Sometimes like you can't just have a blanket rule like that, like
exactly.
He was actually interested in her, which we know he's not. But you don't just like have arbitrary rules like that you can just tell people,
No.
That's games and I don't like that. But yeah, they like just dissected the asking out and it is tonight and they're going to go on this date and Paris is like, enough projects. So Lorelai and Rory are back at the house. It's later that evening. Lorelai gets ready to go. And
they have this amazingly efficient 5-minute catch-up chat. Just which I think you and I could do with learning how to do that.
I think so. I think probably.
It's so well choreographed and like they've lined it up really well.
Yeah. So like Lorelai like bursts in the door, runs upstairs, like quickly changes her clothes. And it's just like such a fast outfit change. She goes from like day to night in 5 minutes, as they say on the magazines. And throws off the shoes, grabs another pair while like hopping like to like get out the door. And so quick 5-minute catch up. And then off she goes to Friday night dinner or Saturday night dinner.
Yes, Rory calls out to her, "Don't be mean to Grandma." And this time, she must really, really mean it. And, like, it's not even funny still. Because it's like, she had better damn well not be mean to Grandma. Because if this is going to continue into this night, then, wow, don't be mean to Grandma.
And so Rory is doing her studying. And the doorbell rings. And the bravest of brave answers the door. You're 16 and you're home alone, girl. This is clearly before true crime podcasts because nobody would do that anymore.
No.
Don't answer the door. Could be anyone. It always happens in a small town to a girl whose smile would light up the room with a bright future. Don't do it. So it's Paris. Probably like one of the least likely people to have expected to see in her doorway. And she comes in a tizzy because she doesn't know what to wear. She has brought her whole wardrobe, which is like a bunch of beige and like slacks. And she just like puts it down and she's like freaking out because she's not really dated and she doesn't have anything to wear and she doesn't know what to do. And Rory is the closest thing she has to like a real friend. And
I love their exchange at the door. Rory opens the door. Paris immediately, "I don't know what to wear." Rory's, "Ever?" And it's just the delivery is so perfect. And the two girls in this scene, their timing and their bouncing off each other is phenomenal, especially for actresses as young as that. But also, show of hands, how many of us thought that it was going to be Tristan at the door?
Oh, I didn't. I thought it was going to be, the first time I watched it, I thought it was going to be Dean.
Oh, even juicier. Oh my God. No, I thought it was going to be Tristan.
Oh.
And I was preparing.
Ew, in her house?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I always prepare for the worst and I'm always expecting the worst. So I was fully ready for it to be Tristan. And I was really, really pleased when instead it was Paris.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I thought it was going to be Dean when I first watched it. And I was expecting it to be the like reconciliation, like something going on, him being like, I made a mistake, like whatever. So that's what I thought was going to happen. And then it's Paris and you're like, Paris? Like, what?
Do you have a date to be on?
Right? So she puts all of these polyester beige things down and it's like, I don't have anything to wear on a date. Rory says, okay, let's go try on some clothes. And she brings her up to Lorelai's closet because Lorelai has the most datey clothes in the house. And Rory pulls out something that's pink. And Paris goes, "My mother says pink makes my head look small." Like, what? As what's her face would say, what kind of a thing is that to say? Francine!
Yep. Francine.
How is it possible for that to happen with the color? No.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what magazine she's been reading, but Mrs. Geller.
And so, they're talking about, dating, and Paris doesn't know what to say, and Paris is gone to try on these outfits, and Rory finds her cue cards, her topic cue cards, and it's Paris, no, you can't do what, just be yourself and talk about whatever.
Rory says something kind of revealing while they're just picking out the things from Lorelai's closet. She mentions Dean, broken up, and I've been thinking about him a lot. I think Paris asks, you really miss him, don't you? And she says, a lot. I miss him a lot. And this is the first time we've actually heard her say anything about it. I mean, I'm sure she has. It's been weeks now. But it's the first time that we have heard her say that. And I think it's really indicative of the kind of friendship that Paris and Rory want to create for each other. Is this, I can rely on you, I can depend on you, we can be open and honest with each other, we can talk about our vulnerabilities and insecurities like we've just done. They're in the middle of it right now, and I love this openness between them.
Yeah,
it's really really nice to see it coming here. But of course it's only gonna just be controlled by the end.
Yes. And one of the things in the scene that Paris says that I really liked was she's like, I don't have a lot of experience in the dating department. You can't put it on your transcript. So what's the point?
Which is basically what Rory was saying last episode, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. These brainiac girls. Yeah. Paris goes to change into this outfit that Rory has chosen for her. And she comes out, and we've all kind of been there where we put on clothes that don't feel like ourselves. And we're like, this feels weird. Or when someone does your makeup, or you get a full face, and you're just like, this feels weird. I don't feel like myself. And that's kind of how Paris is feeling in these flashy, modern, maybe clothes. And
she looks super weird. It's a really weird choice of things
It's
to
a
wear.
Weird choice.
It's very much a Lorelai at the inn blouse.
It is
very low.
Yep. It's not datey. It's not teenage. It's
no, not at all. What? Come on. They could have spent another 5 minutes looking. I think they should have.
But maybe she figured that's the safest. It's not Paris, but it's Paris dresses like a woman at the office anyway, but in muted tones. So maybe she's just trying to take her slightly out of her comfort zone rather than completely out of her comfort zone. I don't know. But Rory is trying to say no, you look really good, and you look great. I swear to God. And then Paris needs to know, well, are you atheist? You can't swear to God and have it mean anything if you're atheist. She's just it's the sentiment. I'm not actually it doesn't matter. And so Lorelai is at dinner. They're eating rabbit or hare, and Trix brought it with her from London on dry ice. The food in London is better, and everything in Europe is better, and everything about America and Emily is wrong. And
I'm not even sure that's legal. I don't think you can actually bring game overseas like that.
Unlikely. And chemicals like dry ice, it would need to be, maybe she on her private plane, the rules are different.
It must be. That's the only explanation.
Of course she went on a private chartered flight. She didn't even go first class. She didn't even set foot in the airport. She walked right onto the tarmac out of her carriage, her old carriage with the horses, and and walked onto the plane. Yeah, I'm surprised she doesn't have a cane, a stick.
Yeah.
To go with.
Give her another 5 years.
So she brings up the loan, which we kind of got the sense at this point, because she kind of left so abruptly after the money was brought up, that it is something that she did not approve of. What a surprise. And she says, loaning money is distasteful and I don't like it. Oh, okay. Not your business at all. It's not your money. And also, Richard was in on it as well. And he tries to be no, Mom, we're fine with it. It doesn't matter. And she's like, no, I don't like it. It's dirty business.
Yeah, and she attempts. She pulls out that that well-known quote of neither a borrower nor a lender be. And she says, Shakespeare wrote that. And don't you consider Shakespeare a wise man? And I'm sitting here okay, Shakespeare wrote it. But Polonius said it. Polonius. Okay, so it's from Hamlet. Polonius is the man who took over. Hang on, is that right? editing Jenny here, just to clarify. I think I was getting Polonius and Claudius confused, but I was on the right track. So it is from Hamlet. It is said by Polonius. He says it to his son Laertes, just as he's about to go off. And it's meant to come off as like fatherly wisdom, parental wisdom and guidance, advice for life. But the thing about Polonius is, though he's very well respected, he's also kind of full of nothing, just a bunch of things that sound nice, but it's advice that doesn't really help you anywhere. And he also goes on, and he's basically known to just be full of hot air and likes to hear himself talk. But anyway, yeah, Shakespeare wrote it, but Polonius said it. And I think so often people will quote Shakespeare and being like, oh yes, this is, the way to live. This is Shakespeare's advice, Shakespeare's thoughts. Okay, no, you're quoting a character from a play. Shakespeare wrote mischievous characters and dreadful characters and conniving ones and wonderful ones and like totally dopey, stupid ones as well. Like, you can't get away with just quoting Shakespeare and thinking you're all that, Okay, this is, I had to put my foot in there.
Yes, good. I like when you explain things like that with like Shakespeare lens or whatever. That was good. That was fun. So as they're having this discussion about the money, Trix announces that she was going to set up a trust fund for Rory for when she turned 25. And everyone's like, wow, that's so generous. Oh my gosh. And then she says, but I'm going to give it to her now so she can pay for her own school and you don't have to lend the money anymore.
Mm-hmm. So that she can pay for Chilton.
Mm-hmm. So she can pay for Chilton and Harvard and her school and all of that. Okay, listen. I have some thoughts about all of this because she literally just finished telling Lorelai that like working hard is good for you. So she would rather someone not have to work hard to pay for something. She would rather give them the money instead so that they don't have to work hard to pay for something just because it's a loan that's involved. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, her motivations.
And when was the first plan? Like when did she come up with the first idea of like, I'm going to set something up for, she'll have access to it when she turns 25. Did she even know Rory? Like, she might have known of her, but like, what kind of thinking is that? When would she have dreamed up that plan? And also, I realized in watching this episode that I don't know what a trust fund is. I was very confused as to like what it is, what it's for, what does it mean, and how does it differ from the whole like loan and gift money. Yes, I was very confused and I felt very, very like out of this world.
Right?
Just like, these are words that I've never said the words trust fund before in my life.
Yeah, this show was also my first experience with trust funds and like, what does that mean? And I'm pretty sure it's money that is earmarked for you under certain conditions. So whether it be age or something like that. And so it's like no strings attached money unless the trust has stipulations like there's a trust of, $250,000 and you're given a weekly allowance out of that trust so you don't blow it all at once kind of thing. It's a legal setup for how people can obtain that money. So it's not just like dropping the money in a bank account. There are laws and lawyers and things that are involved with how that money is actually passed through to the next person.
Further in this conversation, I hate how quickly they leave. They leave immediately after sitting down with their drinks. Like, they just have their drink. They're sitting down for about 2.5 minutes, just enough to be like, I'm gonna make it accessible to her now. Okay. She mentions nothing about the conditions. Instead, she leaves that for the next day. They're gonna talk about it more. Just talk about it now. You're sitting there.
There's gonna be some money. Get excited, and we'll tell you later. Like, yeah. And so Lorelai is like appreciative and grateful, and she's like, wow, like that's so generous and that's amazing. And Rory's going to be so happy. And this is such a cool opportunity for her. And like, thank you so much. And so she's quite excited about the prospect of Rory being able to be, self-sufficient and be able to put herself through these schools and not have to worry about debt or either of them being in debt to anybody. And it's a really big deal. And Lorelai is obviously like, yes. Thank you. Like, that is unexpected and amazing. Meanwhile, Emily is like not okay. She's not okay at all. They part for the evening. Trix, again, is walked upstairs by Richard. Emily, like, corners Lorelai at the door and is like, you can't actually be considering taking that money. Like, Rory's not going to need you anymore. And she's not going to want to go to Europe with you. And she just starts, like, prattling off all of this horrible stuff and putting these awful ideas in Lorelai's head. And it's so cruel and vindictive and petty and awful.
They are Emily's fears. They are Emily's fears of exactly what would have happened with Lorelai. So again, she's talking about Rory's going to leave you behind. Rory's not going to want anything to do with you. It's not about Rory. This is about Lorelai. This is all about Lorelai, and you have and how she has been independent from you and has made her own way. And so Emily's fears are coming out as an attack on Lorelai. And it's just so hard to watch this happening because you're like, you want to spend time with your daughter. You care about your daughter. You want your daughter around. And then she says this absolutely heartbreaking line, it's terrible not to be needed. I kind of still feel for her, Emily, because this wonderful thing in her eyes that she thinks she's doing, that has been doing, as in this loan, paying for Rory's schooling in exchange for, getting to know her. That's a very, it's at the start of the season, at the start of the show, it was a really twisted, weird, manipulative thing to do. But comparatively, now, it just seems like, oh, what a great idea. They have the money that they can actually pay for her schooling. And it's not just like, you must be here for dinner now. And, in exchange, you must come have dinner with us. No, it's more like in exchange for us putting her through school, we actually get to know our granddaughter.
Yeah.
And so for Emily, this has become this thing that they can do for her, but it also is it seems to be their only link to Lorelai and Rory. To have this horrible, horrible woman come in who doesn't know Lorelai and Rory, has no idea. She just comes in, she has the power. She's already been absolutely vile to Emily over and over. And then particularly about this really kind gesture that Emily and Richard have been doing over the past however many months, and says it's disgusting and despicable practice. So it's cruel about the very thing that is her trying to express her kindness. And just to come in and like say, plunk, here's all this money, you don't need anyone anymore. God, it breaks my heart. And I feel like we don't get enough of it, like a tender resolution of just what Emily is going through, even by the end of this episode. And it's brilliant character writing and brilliant performance from this actress as well, that she can be so complicated.
Yeah, that's it, because you do feel for her. And when she's saying things like, she's not going to need you to buy her a car, she's not going to need you to do this or that, where it's like, Lorelai was never going to buy her a car. That's not the relationship that they have. And it's not transactional like that. And she doesn't buy her grand things. And she's not the rich parent who always dreamed about getting her kid the first car. Like, she doesn't care about that stuff. Yeah, and Emily is talking about Lorelai when she's saying all of those things, and she's letting her fears like sabotage the relationship that she's building with her daughter.
Yes.
And so she's letting it actually like get in the way of the thing she's afraid to lose. She's making it worse because she's so afraid. Why don't you see what it is that you're doing? But yeah, so she is causing the damage that she is so afraid of. She's pushing Lorelai away when she is afraid that Lorelai will be pushed away.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's infuriating because you want to root for Emily, and then you can't because she does stuff like this. She's jeopardizing Rory's future, and she's jeopardizing Rory's success and a huge opportunity for her because she's so blinded and selfish and can't actually figure out how to have a good relationship with her daughter without there being strings attached. She does get into Lorelai's head a little bit. And Lorelai, tells her that she's crazy and that she's, that's not what it's like, and that's not mine and Rory's relationship, and back off. But then she gets home and she's looking at Rory, and that the wheels are turning, and she's like, she doesn't want things to change.
On the walls,
of their travel.
countries and things. Yeah.
And so the next morning, she and Suki are out in the market buying some flowers. We get a shot of the troubadour. There he is. They're out in the market buying some fresh flowers, and Lorelai is telling Suki all about everything. And Suki's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is so amazing. And then Lorelai is still kind of like, yeah. And Suki realizes that Emily has gotten to her and is the voice of reason, as usual, as like the people on the outside always are.
Yes. However, for the second time in a row, Suki has really ticked me off because, like, I get that she's supposed to be the one who she can cut straight through Lorelai's facade or whatever. I think I don't like the way that she does it, and I don't like how strongly she sort of forces Lorelai straight off the bat. You don't want to tell her, or you're going to say no. Lorelai hasn't told her yet. Like, she hasn't told Rory yet because she was asleep. That's fine. She doesn't have to tell her yet. Who's to say that Lorelai wouldn't have already had these thoughts in mind as well? Of like, if Rory does come into a whole lot of money, this has never happened to us before. And she's already been having these moments where her daughter is growing up before her and having her whole life outside of her. So this is already things that are in there. Yes. Emily lit the fire under these worries and fears and things. But I feel like Suki is not necessary in this episode. And I really, really don't appreciate how much Suki enforces you have to tell Rory now. You have to tell her. Tell her now. Like, why is there so much pressure to tell Rory immediately, right now? Like, it's the very next morning. And I just feel like Suki really, really puts so much pressure on Lorelai when she doesn't need it yet. I don't know, maybe I'm a very like slow moving person or slow to come to whatever, but Suki has been really ticking me off. I don't actually feel like she's listening enough. I don't know. I want to love her again.
When Suki's excited, like, call her. To me, she's like the excited auntie. She's just like, this is so cool. This is a big thing. And I want to hear her reaction. And I want you to call her now so that I can be part of it too, because I've known her forever and I love her and this is fun and I want to be there for it. It's not, I didn't see it as like the crazy pressure that you did necessarily. I just saw it as like somebody who loves them and is excited for them and is happy for their opportunity and like wants to be part of it and is like, please, like, do it.
I think I wish that Suki would have asked more about Lorelai Sr. Because I would have had questions about this. Like, you mean she's setting up this fund, all this money? So what are the rules? What's going on here? Like, yeah, I'd be excited and stoked about it. But I think I would have more questions about that than I would, like, I'd talk about that before I talk about Emily's presence. I don't know.
I actually love Suki's approach, honestly, because it just shows, like, I think they used that approach specifically to show how well they know her. Like, how Lorelai doesn't even need to tell her that she's second guessing, just by the way that she's saying things and her mannerisms. And I think that is specifically the writer's way of saying that, like, they are so closely tied that Lorelai doesn't even need to express her doubts. And Suki picks up on it and that she sees it and that she sees Lorelai without Lorelai even having to say what she's thinking. And so I see it as more of like a connection. And so, but Suki does try to reiterate that, like, their relationship, like, it would take so much to change the relationship, and like she tries to comfort her and make her feel better about all of this, but it's still, you know, Lorelai still is a little shaky on the whole situation. And so it does cut to Emily and Richard are talking, and I have the clip here, and this is just such a heartbreaking scene.
What is this about?
She'll never come back here, you know.
Who? Mother? Of course she will.
Lorelai.
What?
If she gets that money, Lorelai will never come back here. She won't have to.
Yeah, so leading up to this, they had been arguing about the money, and Richard didn't understand, and Emily's finally letting out some frustration about how she feels about Trix. But yeah, and then I think Richard finally is like, something's not adding up here. What are we actually talking about? And so,
to be as blissfully ignorant as Richard is in
about
this
so
whole
many
episode.
things.
Wouldn't that be I would love to be able to be that ignorant. Just
right?
to, like, exercise
like the
that. Yeah.
snowstorm episode where he's like, oh, we'll go some dinner. We'll go out. Like, how nice it must be. How nice. And yeah, so Emily finally reveals how she actually feels about the situation and why she's so afraid and what's going on. It's not about Rory and Lorelai. It's about Lorelai and Emily. Why she couldn't just talk to Lorelai about it instead of going to tea with them the next day or that later that day and still driving it home. Like, woman, if it took her maybe that long to admit what she was actually feeling, sure. But once you figure it out, deal with it like a grown-up. Just talk to her, man. Like, don't ruin this for Rory if it's not about Rory. And so right after that, Trix comes in, and I actually really love this. She's like, I've ordered a car. Women shouldn't drive. What country are you from?
Really?
Like, did women not drive because you have to crank the car to start it? Like, where are you from? Like, insane. It's Sunday morning, round 2 of the project, the government project at school. We hear about the date. Paris comes in. It was really nice. He kissed her goodnight. She's all giddy. Tristan comes in and, you know, she's kind of like giving him the eyes and he's acting super casual and friendly and nothing too different. And Paris thinks they had a really nice time. And then he said, yeah, so did I. And Paris says we should do it again sometime. You're like, I would absolutely love to do it again as friends. And the way that he just sort of slides that in.
He's just reminding us of how much of a douche he is. And he's condescending and snarky.
Yeah, he's got like a smug face during that whole scene. Every time he talks to her, he's got a smug, like, I know that you really like me and I'm talking to you and you should feel lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
goo! I hate this man.
Yeah. Yeah. And Paris, you know, sure. Yeah. As friends. Great. Mm-hmm. And then Tristan says, yeah, you know, when Rory suggested that I ask you out, I, you know, wasn't too sure or whatever. And it's like, why did you have to say it? He did it on purpose. We all knew he did it on purpose. And we knew that that was going to be the outcome. Like, as soon as Rory said it, we knew it was going to get back to Paris and it was going to be like an issue. And then here we are, Tristan. What was the point and purpose?
What was the point? What? Why? Why would you even mention Rory at all? She's got nothing to do with it. Just keep her out of it. But Paris's reaction, I think, makes sense. I hate that she does have this reaction and that she goes and instead gets fuming angry at Rory when she should just be pissed off at Tristan, being like, excuse me, what? Why did you say?
Like,
but anyway.
Why did you even ask me out if you weren't interested in me? Should be the reaction. But yeah, Rory is to blame because that's easier.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was still in those days, and I guess it must still happen now, that it's always girls against girls.
Always girls against girls, I'm sure.
Right back to it, yeah. Rory is her competition. And so obviously Rory didn't do it out of any kind of kindness or, you know, genuine praise or positive thoughts of Paris. No, of course not. She did it to mock her, to make a joke of her, and to embarrass and pity. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paris absolutely flies off the handle, is screaming at Rory about how she like doesn't want her like sloppy seconds or cast offs or whatever. And first of all, Tristan is not one of her cast offs.
No.
Like, she doesn't even know if anything happened with them. Like, she still doesn't know. And so that's a weird line. And then she goes, I hate you, and like storms out. And Rory, This part bothered me because Rory goes over and is like, you didn't even give her a chance, give her like a few dates, like whatever. I'm sorry. He's known her his whole life. He knows. And you can very easily know that you do not want to date somebody after being on a first date. So like, Rory, what is the point of like driving that home for him? It's not like he's going to like change his mind and go out. You're right. I should ask her out on like a couple more dates. Absolutely. Like, so like, Rory, what? And he's like, well, I can't date her because I like someone else. Wouldn't be fair to her because I like someone else. And Rory just goes, oh, girl, you're not stupid.
But she is. You know,
no,
she
willingly.
is in matters of
I think
crushes,
willingly. She's just pretending like she doesn't see it. She doesn't know that he's actually interested in her.
Yeah, and you can pretend so much that you believe it yourself.
So that was really uncomfortable and awkward. And off we go to tea with Lorelai and Emily and Trix eventually. And that's where they're going to discuss the details of the trust, which 3 days in a row of Emily and Trix would be just exhausting.
Yeah!
Emily, it just keeps making things worse. So she wants to know how Rory took the news about the trust. Lorelai says, well, she was sleeping when I got home, so I didn't tell her yet. And then Emily just starts like gloating. It's like, oh, something I said must have struck a chord with you. And like, don't make it about you. First of all, if there's any way to get Lorelai to put her hackles up, it's to make something about Emily being right about anything. If you actually want her to listen to you, don't make her agree with you. That's the opposite of what to do.
Well, and then this is another moment of somebody assuming Lorelai's behavior based on maybe what they would do or something. Like this is
or what they want.
It's just it's really, really ticking me off about like if putting myself in Lorelai's position. Emily says something like, oh, well, the way you flew out of here, I thought you would tell her and shout it from the rooftops or what, tell her straight away. You were so excited to tell her about this money. It's like, no, are you not paying any? And again, Lorelai's really calm and straightforward and says, well, she was asleep. I'm not going to wake her up. Like, that's not what happened.
Yeah. But in this case, Emily is using all of that as a weapon. She's weaponizing all of that. That's the difference between Emily and Suki, where Suki is sensing her hesitation and is like trying to like snap her out of it because she sees that it's coming from Emily sowing the doubt. But Emily is using it, to like manipulate or to like orchestrate her own outcome desires, And so she keeps driving it home like, oh, well, what I said must have struck a chord with you. And obviously something I said, made a difference. And you must think that I'm right on some level. Like all of that stuff that she's just like, remember what I said, remember what I said, remember what I said. Like
there's no need. There's no need to do that.
No. And so I've got this clip.
This is just like you, to take something that should be great and twist it into something ugly. Why do you do that? What is wrong with you?
There's nothing wrong with me.
Yes, there is. There's something seriously wrong with you. You should be studied.
I don't understand why you're getting so upset. I respect the decision that you made.
I made no decision.
Whatever you say.
Both things right at the end there. So, first of all, good for you, Lorelai, for like calling her out. I mean, like, you are doing this, and I see that you're doing this, and I'm telling you that you're doing this. For her to say, I respect your decision, that's, again, her fully manipulating the situation. And then when Lorelai so plainly is like, I didn't make a decision, she goes, whatever you say. Like, if that's what you think, like, if that's what you believe, like, you can keep telling yourself that.
I hate that. Why not take people at their word?
Well, she doesn't want to. She's just doing it to do. Yeah, it's her tactic. That's 100% her tactic. She's trying to create even more doubt and make her question her own motivations and making question her own decision and ability to form opinions. And like she's doing all of that on purpose. It's extremely narcissistic and damaging and emotionally abusive. And she's doing it on purpose. Whether consciously or not, do it.
Yet again, a much better way of moving the conversation could have been asking a question. Asking, oh, you haven't made a decision yet? Oh, well, what are you considering? What's on your mind? Because then maybe she could find out, maybe she did actually get under Lorelai's skin. Maybe she did actually make an impression on her, which she did. But, then you'd actually have an argument. You'd actually have something to base your feelings on and just...
But she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. She's doing this on purpose. So it's not just like an inept conversation where, like with Suki, where Suki's just excited and not actually like paying attention. Yeah. This is finely tuned manipulation. This is not her wanting to have a conversation about it. This is her shutting it down. This is her telling Lorelai how she's feeling, telling Lorelai that she made a decision, telling Lorelai that she's scared and has doubts. It's not up for debate. She doesn't want to talk about how Emily could be wrong. She just wants to remind Lorelai of all the ways that she thinks she's right or wants to be right.
I want you to say that you are sorry you tried to talk me out of taking this money. That you realize that you're just being petty and controlling and mean, and that you know there is no amount of money that could change the relationship Rory and I have. That's what I want you to say. Say that.
I will not.
Because she doesn't want to, even if it's true. That's not what the point of everything that she said. The point of everything that she said is that she doesn't want Rory to take the money. So why would she say any of that? And good for you, Lorelai, for calling her out on her behavior, even though it's too late, because at this point, Trix has seen them arguing.
Apparently.
From across the room. We have no idea how long she's been standing and observing. And I love seeing Lorelai not just be like, Mom, you're being crazy. She's naming the behaviors.
Yes. Yeah, I fully agree.
Here, it's like, thank you. Like, you're not just being like, oh, Mom, you're being so whatever. It's, how could you be okay with behaving this way to me, your daughter, who you are trying to be close with, who you keep saying that you don't want to leave?
I think in Lorelai saying this, I almost feel like she has felt that way and thought that way since the night before. So it makes the scene with Suki feel even less useful or necessary. Because I think maybe this is me assuming, that Lorelai knew. Like, I don't think it changed anything into how Lorelai went about agreeing or disagreeing or, like, changed her ideas and thoughts. Because she knew from the start that, like, she knows that Rory's going to be totally different. Yeah. If she has money, you know, she knows that it's not going to be anything to worry about, and she knows that her mom is just being ridiculous. She knows all of this, so it just whatever.
Sometimes it does just take the outsider's perspective or the outsider to say it out loud. Yeah, like Lorelai could be thinking it, and then to have Suki be like, "You see this, right?" Mm-hmm. Just in case, because Lorelai hadn't actually said that yet, because when Suki says, like, you know, this is just for your mom to, like, keep you obligated to her, and she goes, I know and so for Suki, I think it was that mechanism there to be like, have you been thinking about this, Lorelai? And then Lorelai's confirmation that, like, yes, she has.
I wish that Suki didn't find out until the end of the episode, until it all runs through. Like, she doesn't need to know. Why is she there? I don't know. But anyway. But then along comes Lorelai Sr. to the table.
And she says basically that she's not going to give the trust fund because the maturity level of the people involved, she can't trust that the money won't be in good hands. Then, you know, Lorelai tries to be like, well, Rory is an extremely mature young lady. And she's like, it's not Rory, it's you. And you must have gotten this from your mother. Raising your voices at high tea. Oh, shock clutching pearls.
The audacity.
Who ever heard of such a thing? That's what she said. Like, oh, woman. And then she's like, I'm taking my leave of you early. She goes to get the car. Emily, get me my coat. Like, oh my God. After you just insult her to her face, get my coat. Like, the audacity.
It bothers me how long it takes for Emily to actually leave the table and get her coat. Like, why didn't she just hop to it straight away? I don't like this in... Well, yeah, but no, she continues the conversation with Lorelai at the table. And this happens so often in movies and TV and all kinds of things. And it's just really irritating because I was sitting there, like, anxiety was bubbling underneath. Like, she's going to come back and be like, Emily, where's my coat? Like, you are making this worse by sitting still. Come on! This is my anxiety. I have a theory. I think that Lorelai Sr., Trix, would have revoked her offer or whatever.
Rescinded
the offer at some point anyway.
Interesting.
If not right then probably sometime further down the line. Because, okay, still, we don't know exactly what she intended it for, other than she just said so she can pay for Chilton. Okay. But yeah, $250,000 is a lot of money. And that's not just going to cover Chilton. So at some point, the Harvard versus Yale thing is going to come up. And how displeased would she be that her money is going to go to Harvard and not Yale. Like, I mean,
maybe that would have been part of the trust. Maybe that would have been in the rules. Like, you can use this money for your post-secondary, but it has to only be Yale.
Exactly. So I think there would have been some kind of a problem coming up at some point. If she wasn't taking it back in this conversation, then it would have been the next conversation that they have about it. Like, okay, we're setting it up. What are the rules? What are the stipulations? Whatnot? And then there'd be a big explosion. It would be like, no, absolutely not. She's had her heart set on Harvard her entire life. She's not going to Yale. Sorry, this isn't happening. Then she'd say, well, fine. I decide what happens to my money, and it is not going to Harvard. Pick it up, take it away.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably quite right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was probably that Rory never found out until the end.
Yeah. And so that is the last scene, is Rory finding out. She is surprised that Lorelai is back from tea. And she's like, well, once you're done with the tiny sandwiches, there's no reason to pretend that you like tea. Which made me think of you immediately, obviously.
Massive mug of tea. Every time, just viewers who are, I mean, listeners won't be able to, hopefully don't hear my slurps, but in this mug that I always have, I've always got some kind of a mug with me. It is always tea. Yorkshire Gold, actually. Yorkshire Gold tea with soya milk. That is what's always in my mug, in case you wanted to know. I also like the tiny sandwiches, but I don't need the tiny sandwiches to enjoy my tea. There we are.
No, but I would pretty much kill for a tiny sandwich right now. I'm quite hungry. And then Lorelai just like casually drops in, you lost out on $250,000 today. What? I wonder how she'll explain to Rory how the loss came about.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to know.
Like, me and Grandma were fighting and Trix took it away because Grandma was being crazy and manipulative and we were arguing. I don't know. I don't know what she would have said.
I always end these episodes really wondering how much they share with each other by the end. Because across this season, and as you know, across this year, they've been sharing less and less with each other until like many episodes later. So I always want to know, like, does Lorelai know anything about the kiss with Tristan? Does she know anything?
Probably not. I don't think
Probably not. Which, like, is a huge thing, especially with all that went down about Rory's first kiss. You know, keeping that a secret. That was a huge, huge deal.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to find out how much of $250,000 would have been worth, like, or today's value.
Oh.
Yes. So in today's money, the purchasing power of $250,000 in 2000 is almost $500,000 today.
Oof.
It's $453,000.
I don't think I'd ever earn that much in my lifetime.
81% increase with inflation since 2000. That's a lot of money back then. And now, that's just a lot of money for a 16-year-old to have potentially had. And so, from here, we have 3 episodes left of season 1.
Oh my goodness.
We've almost done it. We've almost made it.
I did not know how this season was going to go. I didn't know what kind of relationships we were going to develop. I had no idea how complex the character relations were going to be, and that we could feel at once empathy and fury and heartbreak all at the same time for the same character. You know, incredible. It's
crazy. Yeah,
we're probably gonna have like a totally separate episode to just discuss the season overall.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good idea. Just like a recap episode. Yeah, that's a great idea. And we could maybe talk like predictions for season 2.
Oh my golly.
And then at the end of season 2, I can be like, this is what we thought would happen.
La la la, look how stupid you were.
No, not that. Just like, aw.
Well,
alrighty.
Okay.
Send us off.
Alrighty, here we go. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for joining us this week. If you haven't already subscribed, then please feel free to do so. We love having you along with us. Give us a like, leave us a comment, let us know how you feel about this episode. Join us next week on YouTube or wherever you stream your podcasts. She's been Lisa. I've been Jenny. We have been the Belladonna Watch Club. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh my god, why can't I do it?